I'm going to move now to something else entirely, because last week around 30,000 people descended on Clonmel for hare coursing's national meeting. It's big business, bringing in millions to the town. But is it right? Ireland is one of only 3 remaining countries in Europe which allows live hare coursing. RTE's South East correspondent Damien Tiernan was at the track in Clonmel. Now, Damien, you and your cameraman captured the footage that we're about to see here. Viewers might find it disturbing. I just want to let people know that before we run it. Talk us through what we're about to see here, Damien.
Myself and Tanaiste Leo, we were down in Clonmel, and as you can see from the footage, the hare has run up the field and it has been turned. So the
what
race,
does that mean now?
It means that the race is officially over, that one of the dogs is a winner. Now, any of the races we saw before or after this, the hare would manage to get to a barrier, underneath a barrier, and escape from the dogs, but not in this case.
OK, so just so that people know who are not familiar with hare coursing, what is it all about? What's the aim?
Well, the dogs are muzzled, as you can see. The dogs are muzzled in that particular, and they have been for many years. So it's normal practice that the hare would run up to the end of the field and escape from the dogs. In this particular case, he didn't. As you can see, we've got stewards coming onto the field. They've taken the hare and are separating the hare from the dogs. One of the stewards takes the hare away. Now, the Irish Coursing Club say there were 202 courses or meetings, races over the 3-day event. That was the only hare injured that particular day, and there was one on Saturday. They say there were no hares killed at all in the course of the 3-day event. The hares are released back into the wild. As you can see, that hare has been brought over and it's going to be put and released into the wild. So the Coursing Club, that's what they say happens. OK, Damien, thank you very much for bringing that to us. Well,
Pauline McGlynn is here now, along with DJ Histon from the Irish Coursing Club. Pauline, I'll start with you. You had a look at that footage, I think, a little bit earlier. You've seen it again now. What's your response and your reaction?
Well, let's talk about what we just saw there. We've just seen a tiny, fragile, deeply wild animal, the hare, which would be approximately perhaps 6 pounds in weight, being chased by not 1 but 2 hounds that are, both of them, 10 times the size of this wild creature. They're muzzled. If they make contact with that hare, they can do untold damage to its very, very delicate physiognomy. Now, anybody...
But they are muzzled.
They are muzzled, yes, and that is by no means any protection to the hare, and I'll tell you why. Anybody who's ever had a greyhound run at them muzzled, even at a tiny amount of speed, let alone the 40 miles an hour that they can do if they're chasing some quarry, will know that it's an excruciatingly painful thing. When they hit the hare, they can do terrible internal damage. They also have very sharp nails, and let's not forget about that as well. You saw that there was some intervention there after the hare had been hit. That usually means that if it requires assistance, as they say in the rather awful hare coursing parlance, it means that the hare has been hit and mauled. Now, it was caught a few times after it had been hit and the race was supposedly over. It was taken up, and anybody with eyes in their head could see that that hare was quite lifeless as it was being brought off. Its tiny little lifeless legs hanging from behind as it was put into a box and disposed of over the side of the coursing event, while more apparent entertainment was about to take place.
DJ Histon, is that entertaining to see a hare injured in the way that Pauline thinks it was?
Firstly, coursing is not about killing or injuring the hare, and I think Pauline has described the hare as a timid creature and very fragile. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Are they angry animals that deserve to be chased in that way?
No, let me finish. There are records of the hare going back 7 million years, and the reason they've survived and thrived over that period of time is because they are a very resilient prey species, and they're very adept at evading capture, and they're both genetically and physiologically equipped to deal with the chase and to evade capture. And an example of that would be they have stereophonic hearing, 360-degree vision. They can actually swim up to a mile voluntarily, and they can turn at right angles in one stride, and they can reach speeds of 40 miles an hour also.
Pauline, just on the wider issue of hare coursing, a bill was brought before the Dáil last year to ban hare coursing, and the 3 largest political parties voted against it. So
That's right, they did.
You don't have political support here?
I would disagree with that.
But
we
they
don't have
voted against
party
it.
political support for the bill, which was brought by the wonderful Maureen O'Sullivan. I'm delighted to say she's my representative here in Dublin. The major parties invoked the party whip, which means that they did not allow a free vote, they did not allow TDs to vote with their conscience. I might also add that Sinn Féin voted in a block against the bill also, so they should be named also.
Along with the other parties, in fairness.
Oh yes,
I mean,
yes.
if parties decide en masse that we should vote in a certain way, well, they must believe that's the way the wind is blowing on it.
No, they have, this latest Dáil was promised a freer voting system and a freer politics within the Dáil itself. It is my belief, and I am told this from people who work in the Dáil and TDs themselves, that if they are allowed to vote with their conscience, then they can make a better decision on this. At least then we would know. That would be a democratic vote. We would know then what the feeling was within the Dáil, and at least,
well, it's illegal in England, isn't it?
Even if a TD wanted to vote against it or decided that their constituents wouldn't like it, they could abstain, and that would be a protest vote.
Let's say it is banned. Would the same thing happen here as happened in Britain? It would go underground, they'd be filming it on their phones, they'd be gambling on it, and it becomes a very exciting industry that's illegal.
The point about an illegal activity like that, if something goes underground, is that it is just that. It is illegal. What we're talking about here is the legal hunting of a wild animal. Now, if this was any other wild animal, charges of cruelty would be brought against the people who are chasing and hunting it down. There is a loophole in our law which allows for the Department of Regional Development, Rural Affairs, Arts and the Gaeltacht, headed up by Heather Humphreys, to issue a licence to the coursing clubs to run these coursing events. And although the hare is a deeply protected species, the 1976 Wildlife Act, in case you're wondering, this is the one loophole that allows for this. Now, Mr. Liston did point out that, hare coursing is not about actually killing the animal in front of the spectators, but it must be also stressed that if these animals are returned, and they often are signed off as being fit to return to wildlife with injuries, they will not survive.
Is that true?
There is also
Let
the
fact respond. No, I'll come back to you.
That is incorrect, and I suppose there's two statistics I can cite for that. Last year we ran 8,408 courses, and 99.33% of the hares returned to the wild. This is further supported by Queen's University, Quercus, who are a research body based in Belfast. They conducted a 5-year study in relation to hare population and coursing clubs.
Who comes to have keep an eye on course
meetings?
meetings?
First of all, they concluded that there are 18 times more hares where you have coursing clubs than in the wider countryside. Coursing is regulated. It's supervised by the MPWS. It's monitored by the Department of Agriculture. And there are rules and regulations and 26 conditions attached to the licence.
Okay.
And a very important point to make here is there are two other important points. Coursing and conservation are inextricably linked. And secondly, something that's never brought up in this forum by critics of coursing or the media is the act of illegal hunting, which is where you have gangs of people with packs of dogs unmuzzled chasing down the hare. And that's where the coursing clubs on a 12-month basis, together with the MPWS and the Gardaí, they prevent, protect and report those incidences, and the Gardaí, in fairness, have brought a number of prosecutions in that regard as well.
So those who are involved in coursing are actively going out and finding those who are illegally hunting?
Coursing takes place...
Why do you do that?
Because we have a care for the hare. A coursing club will run a meeting over 2 days, but for the 363 days of the year, they're out there protecting the hare, working with farmers in relation to the habitat, and also working with the Gardaí and the MPWS in this very serious matter.
I have some raised hands in the audience who would like to get in here, DJ, if you don't mind.
I know something about the Queen's University statistics, by the way.
Some of our audience in here, we have some raised hands there. Yes, we have a microphone right over you there. Go ahead.
There have been several instances in the past where hares who were injured, badly injured, hardly able to walk, were released back into the wild. And these were documented by the NPWS. In 2015-2016, in over 80 meetings, the NPWS were present at about 15. So a lot of what goes on at coursing meetings is not officially recorded, it's not officially reported. And, you know, this idea that the coursing club is the protector of the hare is a joke. I mean, I wish they'd stop peddling that nonsense.
Well, we have Lindsay.
I happen to come from a part of rural Ireland where there is no organised coursing, and the hare population is absolutely fine. It isn't overly populated or underpopulated.
Okay.
So this idea that we
Lindsay,
need the coursing clubs to regulate hare population is ridiculous.
Lindsay Edwards is here. Lindsay, you've got your hand raised there. Is that right? Is that Lindsay Edwards?
No. 18, you're
Yeah, I'll come to you, Aidan, in a moment, but I want to speak to Lindsay. Is Lindsay here?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lindsay, your hand. Did you examine, you're a vet, am I right?
I am.
Did you examine that hare that we saw in that footage?
I did.
Okay, tell me about what you found.
He had no signs of visible injury. He was sitting up quite comfortably in the box, acting as normal as any other of the hares in the boxes were. I instructed that he kept in a small paddock for observation. He was observed twice a day thereafter and was exhibiting all the normal behaviours of any hare that would be expected to be.
Okay. Do you work for the coursing club? Or
I work alongside them, yeah.
Alongside. Do you work for them?
No.
Are they paying you? Are they paying
my
you?
expenses will be
Right,
covered.
OK, enough said.
Okay, Aidan Urell, you wanted to come in there. Go ahead.
DJ is minimising the number of hare kills. Every year, under the Freedom of Information, we apply for the reports from the national parks. Now, only 16 meetings were monitored in the 2015-16 season. And, you know,
But that's not DJ's fault, is it?
But we can't rely on his figures.
Claire, can I just say, it's our obligation to report on every single meeting, whether the MPWS are present or not. All that information is sent back to the MPWS, including veterinary reports, who are professional people. Okay. And I take issue with someone challenging Lindsay Edwards' account of matters because she's the vet at the meeting. All
right, well, we did a poll on this. We asked our Claire Byrne Live and Morrick smartphone panel, should live hare coursing be banned in Ireland? 64% DJ said yes, it should be banned, and 23% said no. 13% said they didn't know. What do you say to that result? 64% don't want hare coursing.
Obviously, this is a very emotive issue, but when you conduct any poll, I think it's important that it's done on a professional basis, and you have to decide how informed the respondents are.
Well, there are 1,000 people who are demographically chosen in a very professional way, I have to say, by a Morrick, who would be very upset if they thought that you were casting any aspersions on their methodology.
I'm not casting any aspersions, but I would cast a doubt as to the information that they have, and obviously to hear the other side, and we're very welcome to have this opportunity tonight, and thank you very much for that.
Claire, there is no place in Ireland for treating a wild animal like this. Can I just say, though, that stress, as well as everything else, is a killer for the hare. And the fact that they were stressed during the meeting.
That is incorrect.
We need to leave it there.
Fact.
Thank you both very much. We'll be back in a moment.